our prime. I had to drop the top on him.
It's just amazing.
And when you think about
That's amazing.
Think about what I just said about the shoe opportunity that could present itself for Nike, who's a Nike school. And the reason I say Nike is because it's a Nike school. They don't want another brand with the kid wearing them on field, but they get him head to toe. Okay, not just off the field. They can get him head to toe with a signature shoe. If he had that right now, and you mentioned record-breaking Colorado State, Skip, how many eyeballs would have seen that? What did you call it, Michael? Number 2, prime 2 or something?
Time 2.
Prime
That's
2
the name
with
of the
number
shoe.
2.
Time 2. Well,
Time 2.
Well, I want my cut.
How many?
I like it.
I like
How many
that
people
too.
would see
He's
that?
wearing that
it's just
too.
Something major is happening around Shedeur Sanders, and this new Nike video may be the clearest sign yet. While the Cleveland Browns continue preparing for the season and the rest of the NFL keeps debating what Shedeur can become, Nike appears to be operating with a completely different level of confidence. This does not feel like a company casually featuring another young football player. It feels like one of the biggest sports brands in the world is preparing Shedeur Sanders for a much larger stage. Take another look at that video. Everything about it is designed to make Shedeur feel important. The presentation, the energy, the timing, and the way Nike places him at the center of the moment all send the same message. They are not treating him like an unknown quarterback fighting for attention. They are treating him like somebody fans are already expected to recognize. That difference matters because Nike has an entire league full of established stars, highly drafted rookies, and proven quarterbacks to choose from. Yet Shedeur Sanders keeps finding his way into the spotlight. That is why this story is bigger than one advertisement. Nike is not simply selling a product here. The company is helping build an image, and that image is becoming more powerful with every new campaign.
It's only been a couple practices, and then obviously summer ball as well. But what are your impressions of Todd Monken and what he's going to bring to this team as opposed to last year's team?
I don't really like to play the comparison game because I like being thankful for what I do have. And I think we got a coach that understands the vibe of everything. He understands the city, he understands the team, he understands each player. So I think when you have that and the supporting staff with him, then you have no choice but success.
Shedeur is being presented as confident, modern, recognizable, and ready for pressure. Those are the exact qualities brands look for when they believe an athlete can reach far beyond the football field. Nike understands attention better than almost anybody, and right now Shedeur Sanders commands attention every single time his name appears. This is also where several NFL owners may be watching closely. During the draft process, teams had plenty of questions about Shedeur. Some were concerned about the attention surrounding his family. Others may have wondered whether his confidence would fit inside a traditional NFL locker room. There were constant debates about his personality, his expectations, and how much noise would follow him into the league. However, the same attention that made some teams nervous is now becoming one of his greatest strengths. Nike does not appear afraid of the spotlight around Shedeur. Nike appears to want more of it. The company sees what happens whenever Shedeur is placed in front of a national audience. Fans respond, critics respond, former players respond, and social media immediately turns the moment into a larger conversation. Whether people support him or question him, they keep watching. In professional sports, that type of interest is incredibly valuable, especially when it surrounds a quarterback who still has so much room to grow. And that may be the part that makes this situation uncomfortable for the teams that passed on him. Cleveland did not just add a young quarterback. The Browns added one of the most recognizable young athletes entering the NFL. They added a player who already understands cameras, pressure, expectations, and national attention. They added somebody who can walk into a commercial and immediately look like he belongs there. If Shedeur continues developing on the field, the Browns could be holding something far bigger than they originally expected.
What does it mean to you that you were so impactful to so many people in your fan base?
Well, I'd say that's what we dream of. That's what we dream of. Just as being a person that works so hard on his craft. That's honestly, that's all I hope for. You know, the rest is just having a production on the field and doing what I have to do. I'm thankful for being able to make it through last year and being able to keep going. That's one thing when adversity hits, it's about are you going to keep going? And that's what I did, and that's what I'm most proud of myself of last year. So then now I'm in a space of where I'm learning every day, learning all these different things that will make the game easier. It's like even, you know, vets in year 10, 12, whatever, they learn every day, so I take the same approach.
That does not mean advertisements should decide who starts at quarterback. Football decisions still have to be made through performance, preparation, leadership, and execution. Todd Monken and the Browns coaching staff cannot choose a quarterback because of jersey sales or social media numbers. However, when a player is improving on the field while also becoming more valuable away from it, the entire situation changes. The marketing power becomes an additional weapon, not the reason for the opportunity. Shedeur's growing relationship with Nike also gives this story a completely different feeling. A company like Nike does not need to chase every popular moment. It creates moments. When Nike places an athlete inside a major campaign, the company is making a choice about who it believes people care about. That does not guarantee Shedeur will become a superstar, but it does show that Nike sees something worth building around. They see a player with a name, a story, a fan base, and the potential to become one of the most discussed figures in football. The timing makes this even more interesting. Shedeur is entering a crucial stretch in Cleveland, where every practice, every throw, and every decision will be examined. He is competing in a quarterback room filled with different levels of experience, pressure, and expectation. Yet while the football world continues asking whether he is ready for a bigger role, Nike is already presenting him like a player prepared to handle one. That contrast creates the real controversy. The NFL is still evaluating Shedeur Sanders, but the business world appears increasingly convinced that he is already one of football's most valuable young personalities. Nike may not know who Todd Monken will start, and the company certainly does not control Cleveland's depth chart. But Nike clearly understands that Shedeur's ceiling extends far beyond being another name on a roster. And if Shedeur begins winning games in Cleveland, this entire story could explode. The commercials would become bigger. The attention would become louder. The jersey sales would rise, national television would follow, and the teams that questioned him would have to watch the Browns benefit from a player they could have selected themselves. That is why this new Nike video feels important. It could be the early sign of a much bigger plan, and the NFL may soon discover that Shedeur Sanders was never just another quarterback prospect. The most fascinating part of this entire Shedeur Sanders story is that the same thing NFL teams appeared to fear is exactly what Nike is now turning into a massive advantage.
Browns beat Shedeur. Browns RPA. Nike swoosh 5 of 5, Shedeur. Oh my gosh. Wow. Oh my gosh, that's a huge card. Wow, Dad, that is literally thousands.
Only at AA Mint. That's why we go so far, man. All the way from DC.
Oh my goodness, that is insane.
During the draft process, the conversation around Shedeur was never only about football. Every interview became a headline. Every opinion became a debate. Every small detail was pulled apart and judged like it carried the weight of an entire franchise. Some teams may have looked at all that attention and decided it was too much. Nike appears to have looked at the same situation and seen pure opportunity. That is the difference between people who fear pressure and people who understand how valuable pressure can become. Shedeur Sanders was never going to enter the NFL quietly. His name was already known. His family was already famous. His confidence was already part of his identity. He arrived with supporters who believed in him, critics waiting for him to fail, and cameras following nearly every move. To some organizations, that may have felt like a distraction. To Nike, that kind of attention is exactly what builds a star. The biggest brands in sports do not always search for the safest personality. They search for athletes people cannot ignore. They want someone who creates conversation before the commercial even begins. Shedeur does that naturally. He does not need manufactured drama to make people watch. His presence already produces reaction. One group believes he is being unfairly judged. Another group believes he still has everything to prove.
Just to see your son's face on the bottom of a shoe is
They told me bust out my AP, perfect timing. Got them baguettes up on my neck and stay shining. It's never hot around my jewelry, change the climbing. I went and got that new Maybach, I stayed grinding.
That tension keeps his name alive, and Nike understands how to turn that tension into something powerful. That is why this new video matters so much. It shows that Nike is not backing away from Shedeur because of the noise. The company is leaning into it. Every time his name trends, every time a practice clip spreads, and every time fans argue about where he belongs in Cleveland, his value grows. Attention is currency in modern sports, and Shedeur Sanders has more of it than many players who entered the league with much higher draft expectations. Think about how unusual that is. Most young quarterbacks need years of production before they become nationally recognizable. They must win games, make playoff runs, or create one unforgettable moment before major brands begin building campaigns around them. Shedeur entered the NFL with the public already watching. Nike did not have to introduce him to football fans. The company only had to strengthen the image people already knew. That gives him an advantage few young players possess. When Shedeur makes a big play, it travels farther. When he has a strong practice, the conversation grows faster. When a coach praises him, fans immediately begin wondering whether his role is about to change. When Nike releases a new commercial, it does not feel like ordinary advertising. It feels like another chapter in a story the public has been following for years. And that story has everything a major sports brand could want. There is family legacy, controversy, pressure, disappointment, confidence, and a chance at redemption. Shedeur was expected by many people to be selected much earlier. Instead, he had to watch teams pass on him repeatedly. That moment could have damaged his image. Instead, it gave Nike an even stronger story to sell. Now, Shedeur is not only the talented quarterback with a famous last name, he is the player who was doubted, pushed down, and forced to fight his way back into the conversation. That type of underdog story connects with fans. People love watching someone prove that the experts were wrong. They love seeing a player take rejection and use it as motivation. Nike has built entire campaigns around that exact feeling, and Shedeur fits the formula almost perfectly. The teams that passed on him may have believed they were avoiding unnecessary attention, but now they have to watch Cleveland receive all of it. Every Shedeur headline brings the Browns more visibility. Every commercial places Cleveland closer to the center of the NFL conversation. Every viral clip gives the franchise a level of relevance it has struggled to maintain consistently. That does not guarantee wins, but it gives the Browns something every organization wants: a player people are emotionally invested in. And the real danger for those other teams is what happens if Shedeur becomes a legitimate winner. Right now, critics can still say the attention is bigger than the production.
Dad has his own cleat, the legendary DC 96. Would you want to build on that cleat, or when you get there, would you want to make your own cleat?
I would want to build on it, have like a different version, but concept, because I feel like it's more about like generational. It's more about what could be passed down year after year after year after year after year, rather than everybody starting up they whole new wave and whole new, because there's no real substance behind it. Everything that's great has to have a story behind it. Every great player has to have a story behind it. So I feel like when it comes to design or anything like that, like it always has to have a great story behind it.
They can still argue that Nike is promoting potential rather than proven NFL success. But if Shedeur begins producing on Sundays, those arguments become much harder to make. The marketing power and football success would begin feeding each other, and that is when a popular athlete can turn into a full NFL phenomenon. Imagine Shedeur winning a close game in Cleveland, making a clutch fourth-quarter throw, and then appearing in a new Nike campaign the following week. Imagine the Browns finally finding stability at quarterback while one of the biggest sports brands in the world continues pushing their young star. Suddenly, the teams that passed on him are not simply watching a good quarterback develop. They are watching Cleveland build an entire identity around someone they had a chance to take. That possibility is what makes this story feel dangerous for the rest of the league. Nike does not need Shedeur to be perfect. The company needs him to remain relevant, competitive, and capable of creating moments. He has already proven he can do the first part. The football side will determine how far everything else can go. What makes Nike's latest move even more interesting is the timing. Shedeur Sanders is no longer living only on college highlights, family fame, or draft day controversy. He is now building a real professional football story in Cleveland, and every step forward gives Nike more material to work with. The brand is not trying to create interest from nothing. It is attaching itself to a player whose journey keeps becoming more dramatic, more valuable, and much harder for the NFL to ignore. That is where the Cleveland Browns suddenly enter a much bigger conversation. For years, this franchise has searched for stability, direction, and a quarterback capable of giving fans real hope. Cleveland has invested money, draft picks, coaching changes, and countless hours into fixing the most important position on the field. Yet one of the most powerful opportunities may have arrived in a way nobody expected. Shedeur Sanders did not enter the organization as the safest choice or the most protected prospect. He entered with questions, pressure, and a massive spotlight already following him. Now that spotlight is starting to work in Cleveland's favor. Every strong practice creates excitement. Every positive report spreads across social media. Every sign of growth becomes another reason for fans to believe the Browns may have found something special. Then Nike steps in with a polished commercial and reminds everyone that Shedeur's story reaches far beyond one training camp or one quarterback competition. That combination can become dangerous for the rest of the NFL. Cleveland does not need Shedeur to become the best quarterback in football overnight. The Browns simply need him to keep improving, keep competing, and keep giving people a reason to watch. Nike can take those moments and turn them into something much larger. A sharp throw in practice becomes a viral clip. a confident interview becomes a national conversation. A strong performance becomes the next chapter in a marketing campaign. This is how stars are built in modern sports. It is not only about statistics, it is about timing, personality, struggle, and whether fans feel emotionally connected to the journey. Shedeur already has people invested in what happens next. Some want to see him prove every critic wrong. Others are waiting for him to stumble. Both groups continue watching. And that is exactly why his name carries so much power. The Browns must understand that they are dealing with more than a normal young quarterback. Shedeur brings expectations that can lift a franchise, but they can also expose every mistake the organization makes. If Cleveland develops him correctly, protects him with a strong plan, and gives him a fair opportunity, the Browns could become one of the most talked about teams in the league. If they mishandle him, the backlash would be immediate and impossible to hide. That pressure may explain why every decision around Shedeur feels so important. Which unit he practices with becomes a headline. How many throws he completes becomes a debate. One interception can create panic, while one touchdown can convince fans that the future has arrived. That level of attention can be exhausting, but it can also become a competitive advantage when the player knows how to handle it. Shedeur has been around cameras and public pressure for most of his football life. He understands that people will talk whether he succeeds or fails. He understands that confidence will be praised by one group and attacked by another. Instead of running from that reality, he appears comfortable inside it. That comfort is one of the biggest reasons Nike can continue placing him in major campaigns without the presentation feeling forced. He looks like he belongs in the spotlight because the spotlight has always been part of his environment. The real challenge is proving that the football can keep pace with the fame. That is what makes the next stage of his career so important. If his decision-making improves, if his command grows, and if he continues showing that he can handle an NFL offense, the entire conversation changes. Suddenly, Nike is not promoting a famous young player with potential. Nike is promoting a real NFL quarterback who also happens to possess enormous commercial value. That is the scenario other owners should be thinking about, because very few players can offer both sides of the equation. Plenty of athletes can play. Plenty of personalities can attract attention. Finding someone who can potentially do both at a high level is far more difficult. Cleveland may have discovered that combination at exactly the right time. The Browns need energy. They need a new identity. They need a reason for fans to believe the organization is moving forward rather than repeating the same mistakes. Shedeur's rise could provide all of that, especially if the coaching staff keeps the football development at the center of the plan. Nike's involvement only increases the stakes. Every new advertisement makes Shedeur look more established. Every campaign makes the possibility of future stardom feel less unrealistic. That does not mean the company controls his career, and it does not mean commercials guarantee success. It means Nike sees enough potential to keep placing its name beside his. That should matter to anyone watching this quarterback battle. Major companies do not invest attention without believing there is a strong return available. Nike sees engagement, recognition, personality, and a story that can continue growing. The Browns see a quarterback trying to earn a larger role. When those two stories begin moving in the same direction, Cleveland could be sitting on something the rest of the league badly underestimated. The financial side of this story is where things become even more serious. Shedeur Sanders is not just trying to win a quarterback competition in Cleveland. He is building the kind of platform that can change how an entire franchise is viewed across the NFL. Nike understands that better than almost anyone. And this latest video feels like another signal that the company believes Shedeur can become much more than a popular young player. When a brand as powerful as Nike continues placing an athlete in front of millions of people, it is never only about one commercial. It is about long-term value. Nike is studying who fans recognize, who creates conversation, who can sell a message, and who can remain relevant even when the football season is not being played. Shedeur checks every one of those boxes. His name moves quickly across social media, his highlights spread fast, and every major development around him becomes national content. That kind of reach is extremely difficult to create. NFL teams spend years trying to build stronger brands, connect with younger fans, expand merchandise sales, and become part of the national conversation. Cleveland may now have a player who brings all of that attention naturally. The Browns did not have to manufacture interest around Shedeur. The interest arrived with him, and Nike is showing exactly how powerful that can become. This is why the teams that passed on him may eventually feel more than football regret. They could feel business regret too. A franchise may believe it only missed on a quarterback prospect, but Shedeur offers something larger. He can create excitement around a schedule release, a training camp practice, a jersey number, a commercial, or one strong performance. That constant attention gives Cleveland opportunities that many other organizations simply do not have. Of course, Shedeur still has to earn everything on the field. Nike cannot complete a third down pass. A commercial cannot read a blitz. Popularity cannot protect the football inside the pocket. The Browns coaching staff will evaluate the same football details they would evaluate with any other quarterback. However, when a player begins proving himself while also carrying enormous commercial power, the organization receives value from every direction. That is what makes this situation so fascinating. Cleveland could develop a quarterback and a franchise centerpiece at the same time. If Shedeur becomes successful, Nike will have a young star positioned at the most important position in American sports. The Browns will have one of the most recognizable quarterbacks in the league. Fans will have a player they already feel connected to, and television networks will have a story they know people will watch. That is how a local football story can become a national business story. Shedeur would not need to become the greatest quarterback in the league immediately. He would only need to prove that his talent, leadership, and growth are real. Once that happens, Nike can build around his personality, his journey, and the emotions surrounding every step of his career. One big win could become a major advertisement. One clutch drive could become the moment an entire campaign is built around. And Cleveland is a perfect city for that kind of story. Browns fans have waded through years of quarterback uncertainty, disappointment, and constant change. They are not looking for a polished Hollywood story with no struggle. They understand frustration, pressure, and fighting for respect. Shedeur's path fits that city because he is also trying to prove people wrong. He was questioned, pushed down the board, and forced to earn every opportunity. That creates a connection Nike can use without inventing anything. The emotional side of the story is already there. Browns fans want hope. Shedeur wants respect. Nike wants an athlete with a powerful journey. The NFL has a group of teams that may have underestimated what he could become. Every piece fits together, and that is why this new commercial does not feel small. It also raises an uncomfortable question for the rest of the league. How much would another franchise pay today for the attention Cleveland receives every time Shedeur Sanders appears in a major campaign? Teams spend heavily on marketing departments, social media teams, stadium promotions, and national partnerships. Cleveland has a young quarterback who can generate that level of attention simply by appearing in a Nike video. That does not mean the Browns should rush his development. In fact, the organization has even more reason to handle the situation carefully. If Cleveland pushes him too quickly and creates unnecessary problems, the criticism will be loud. If the team keeps him buried without giving him a fair chance, the questions will become even louder. The Browns must balance patience with opportunity because everybody is watching how they manage one of the most valuable young personalities in football. Nike's confidence also changes the way fans view Shedeur's future. Supporters are no longer asking whether he can become famous. He is already famous. The real question is whether his NFL production can grow to match the size of his platform. If it does, the value could become enormous. Not only for Shedeur, but for Cleveland, Nike, the league, and every company that wants to be connected to his rise. The pressure is now shifting directly toward the Cleveland Browns because Nike may be showing the organization exactly how large this opportunity can become. Shedeur Sanders is already bringing national attention, commercial interest, and a level of excitement that most young quarterbacks spend years trying to create. The Browns now have to decide whether they can turn that energy into something real on the football field, because wasting this kind of momentum would be one of the biggest mistakes the franchise could make. Cleveland has lived through too many quarterback experiments that never became anything lasting. Fans have seen big contracts, bold promises, coaching changes, draft picks, and fresh starts that eventually ended in the same frustration. That history is why Shedeur's situation feels so different. He is not entering a stable franchise with a long record of developing quarterbacks. He is entering an organization that still has to prove it can recognize the right player, build around him, and avoid creating another mess at the most important position on the roster. Nike's latest commercial makes that responsibility even harder to ignore. The brand is presenting Shedeur like a player who belongs on a national stage, while Cleveland still has to determine how quickly he can handle a larger role. That gap creates tension. One side of the story says Shedeur is already becoming a major sports figure. The other side says he still has to earn every snap inside a competitive quarterback room. Both can be true, but the Browns cannot allow the business excitement to distract them from the football development that will ultimately decide everything. At the same time, Cleveland cannot pretend the business side does not matter at all. NFL organizations are not only football teams. They are enormous entertainment companies built around ticket sales, merchandise, television ratings, sponsorships, and fan engagement. A quarterback who creates excitement in all those areas gives his team a powerful advantage. Shedeur has the potential to do exactly that, especially if his play begins matching the size of his public profile. The Browns have already seen what happens when fans believe Shedeur is gaining ground. Practice clips spread instantly. Reports about his improvement become major debates. Every comparison with the other quarterbacks produces thousands of reactions. People who do not normally follow every Cleveland training camp detail are suddenly checking updates because Shedeur is involved. That is not normal attention for a young player still fighting for his place. And Nike clearly understands how rare it is. Now imagine what happens if Todd Monken gives Shedeur a meaningful opportunity and he delivers. One strong performance could change the entire temperature around the franchise. Browns fans would become louder. National shows would lead with Cleveland. Nike would have another major moment to build around, and every team that passed on Shedeur would face the same uncomfortable question. How did this player end up becoming Cleveland's biggest young star? That possibility is why the organization must avoid allowing outside narratives to control the process. Some people will demand Shedeur starts immediately because of his popularity. Others will argue that the Browns should keep him behind more experienced quarterbacks regardless of how he performs. Neither approach is fair. Shedeur should not be handed the job because Nike made a commercial, but he also should not be held back because his fame makes certain people uncomfortable. The decision has to come down to whether he gives Cleveland the best chance to move forward. Can he command the offense? Can he make the right decision under pressure? Can he protect the football? Can he respond after mistakes? Can he earn the trust of the locker room? Those are the questions Todd Monken must answer, and if Shedeur continues checking those boxes, the Browns will have no reason to ignore what is happening right in front of them. The commercial attention would then become the reward for making the correct football choice. Cleveland would not be starting a marketing campaign at quarterback. It would be starting a quarterback whose marketing power happens to be enormous. That is a major difference, and it is the only way this situation can work without becoming a distraction. Shedeur also has to understand the opportunity in front of him. Nike can increase his visibility, but it cannot protect him from criticism when the games begin. The same people praising the commercial will study every bad throw. Every mistake will be replayed. Every loss will create questions about whether the attention arrived too early. That is the price of entering the league with this much recognition, and Shedeur has to be prepared to answer the pressure with preparation and production. So far, he has never appeared interested in hiding from expectations. His confidence is one of the main reasons fans follow him, but confidence in the NFL has to be supported by work. The Browns coaching staff will see what happens inside meeting rooms, during practices, and when the play breaks down. Nike sees the image. Cleveland must develop the quarterback behind that image. If both sides come together, the result could be massive. Shedeur could become the player Nike believes fans want to watch, and the quarterback Cleveland has spent years trying to find. That combination would give the Browns something they have rarely possessed: a young face of the franchise with real national influence and the chance to create stability on the field. But this opportunity comes with a warning. Cleveland cannot fall in love with the attention and forget the development. It also cannot become frightened by the attention and refuse to make the bold decision if Shedeur earns it. The Browns must judge him clearly, coach him hard, and give him a real path forward. Anything less would risk turning one of the most valuable opportunities in football into another painful Cleveland story. And that is what makes this new Nike video feel much bigger than a normal commercial. It is not proof that Shedeur Sanders has already received the largest deal in NFL history, and it does not guarantee that he will immediately become Cleveland's starter. But it does show something important. One of the most powerful brands in sports still sees enormous value in Shedeur Sanders, and that value keeps growing every time his football story moves forward. The NFL owners who passed on him may not be panicking today, but they are definitely paying attention. They watch Cleveland take a chance on a quarterback with a massive name, a loyal fan base, and more public interest than most young players could ever imagine. Now Nike is helping turn that attention into a national campaign, and the Browns could soon benefit from a player who brings excitement both on and off the field. The key question is no longer whether Shedeur can attract attention. He has already answered that. The question is whether Cleveland can develop him into the quarterback who makes all that attention impossible to dismiss. If he keeps improving, earns the trust of Todd Monken, and proves he can lead this offense, Nike may already have the perfect face for its next major NFL story. And if that happens, the teams that passed on Shedeur will not just regret missing a quarterback, they could regret missing one of the biggest young stars in professional football. Cleveland would have the player, Nike would have the story, and the rest of the league would be forced to watch it all unfold from the outside. So what do you think this new Nike video really means? Is Nike preparing Shedeur Sanders to become its next NFL megastar? Or is this simply another commercial built around one of football's most popular names? And if Shedeur continues proving himself in Cleveland, How many NFL teams will regret letting him fall to the Browns? Let me know your opinion in the comments. If you believe Shedeur Sanders is becoming too big for the NFL to ignore, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next major Browns update.